Say hi to the sharks, my daughter-in-law whispered as she pushed me off my yacht. My son, Michael, just stood there, smiling. They thought my $3 billion fortune was theirs. But when they returned home later that evening, I was sitting in my favorite armchair, waiting with a gift they would never forget. The salt spray usually felt like a blessing. For 40 years, the ocean was my sanctuary. It was where I felt closest to Helen, my late wife. I built Miami from the ground up, swamps into skyscrapers. When the pressure got too heavy, I came out here. I breathed the clean air. I remembered what mattered. If you're listening to this, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone. Because on the night of my 70th birthday, the night I was supposed to retire, I realized just how alone I truly was. But that night, the air felt different. Heavy. Thick. It felt like the silence before a hurricane makes landfall. A tension that had nothing to do with the weather. I stood on the deck of the Helen's Grace. 150 feet of luxury. A testament to a lifetime of sweat and sacrifice. My name, Robert Sterling, was etched into the city skyline. A fortune valued at over $3 billion. And I did it all. Every grueling hour. Every risky deal for my son. Or so I thought. Michael stood near the stern, swirling expensive whiskey. He always did that when he was nervous, or when he was lying. Beside him, clinging to his arm like a beautiful parasitic vine, was his wife Lisa. "It's a perfect night, Dad," Michael said. His voice was smooth, too smooth, the polished charm of a salesman. But lately it felt brittle, a thin veneer over something rotten. He wouldn't look me in the eye. "It is," I replied. I looked out at the dark, endless water. We were far offshore, anchored near a deep trench, turbulent currents. I had suggested this trip, a celebration, my birthday, my retirement. I had just signed the preliminary papers, handing the company over to Michael, a passing of the torch. It was supposed to be a moment of pride. Yet, looking at them, a chill snaked down my spine. They were smiling, but the smiles didn't reach their eyes. Something was terribly wrong. Michael had changed since marrying Lisa 3 years ago. My kind, awkward boy who loved history books and volunteered at the shelter was gone. He was sharp-edged now, obsessed with luxury brands, emotionally distant. He always looked to Lisa for approval, his own opinions swallowed by her forceful personality. I missed my son. I missed the boy Helen raised. But the real change was something darker, hiding just beneath the surface. "Robert, darling, you look so weary," Lisa purred, stepping closer. Her perfume was overwhelming, sickly sweet. It couldn't mask the raw ambition radiating from her. She was stunning, yes, but her beauty was cold, like a diamond, hard and refractive. "It must be such a relief," she added, touching my arm lightly, "to finally let go of the burden." The way she said burden made my skin crawl. "It's not a burden, Lisa, it's my life's work," I corrected gently. "But yes, it's time. Michael is ready." Michael didn't meet my eyes. He just stared at the dark water, his knuckles white where he gripped his glass. That hesitation, that inability to look me in the eye, it had become his default state. Why couldn't he look at me? What was he hiding? "He is more than ready," Lisa agreed, her smile bright and artificial. "But the transition process, it's so tedious, isn't it? Lawyers, waiting periods, tax implications." She mentioned David, my lawyer. David mentioned it could take months, even years, to finalize the transfer of assets. Mentioning David was a calculated move, a way to signal she was already involved. She was digging her claws in deep, and I hadn't even noticed until now. "These things take time," I said, frowning. "We have to do it right, follow the procedures. The company is complex." "Of course," Lisa said. She moved gracefully to my other side. I was standing between them now, near the railing. The music playing softly from the deck speakers suddenly seemed too loud. The jazz melody turned sinister. They had cornered me, and I walked right into the trap. The air shifted. The casual conversation died. Lisa to my left, Michael to my right. The silence stretched, broken only by the slap of water against the hull. Michael took a long drink of his whiskey, draining the glass. He didn't look at me. He looked at Lisa. She gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod. My stomach tightened. Why did that feel like a signal? "But Michael and I were talking," Lisa said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "It all seems so unnecessary." My heart started to pound. The air suddenly felt very thin. You're 70, Robert, she added, her tone dripping with false concern. You've had those heart scares last year. The way she said unnecessary hung in the air like a guillotine blade. I knew then, I knew what this was about, but a part of me refused to believe it. What are you suggesting, Lisa? I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. She leaned in, her eyes locked onto mine, cold and empty as the deep ocean below us. We're suggesting, she said slowly, savoring the words, that waiting for nature to take its course is inefficient. The bluntness was staggering. It stole the breath from my lungs. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution. I turned to my son, my boy. Michael, what is she talking about? I searched his face desperately. I looked for the boy I raised, the boy who cried when his first dog died, the boy Helen adored. I found nothing. His face was a blank mask. And then slowly, a smile spread across his lips. It was a terrifying smile. No warmth, no love, no recognition. The smile of a man looking at an obstacle about to be removed. My blood ran cold. This wasn't my son. This was a monster.
She's saying we want it now, Dad,
Michael said, his voice devoid of emotion, flat and dead. All of it. The company, the accounts, the houses, the $3 billion. The betrayal hit me harder than any physical blow, a crushing weight against my chest. It wasn't the demand that hurt, it was the cold calculation behind it, the utter lack of humanity. I was giving it to you, Michael, I gasped. I just started the process tonight. Why wasn't that enough? But this way is cleaner, Lisa whispered, mock sympathy dripping from her voice. No gift taxes, no long transition period, no chance for you to change your mind and donate it all to some stray cat charity. She painted the picture of my death. Just a tragic accident. A wealthy old man celebrating his retirement. Maybe had a little too much to drink, loses his balance on his yacht. It happens all the time. They had planned this. Every detail. Every lie. You can't be serious, I gasped. I stumbled back. The railing dug into my spine. I looked around wildly, the crew, Captain Jack and his 2 deckhands. Where were they? Below deck. Michael had dismissed them earlier. A private family moment. We were utterly alone, miles from shore. The perfect crime. We are very serious, Michael said. He took a step closer, still holding the empty whiskey glass. His hand was steady, no trembling, no hesitation. I deserve this, Dad, he said, the entitlement dripping from his voice. I've waited in your shadow long enough. It's my turn. My shadow? I thought I was providing shade, protection, guidance. I was so wrong. I am your father. The words tore out of my throat, raw with pain and disbelief. Lisa laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that cut through the music. She placed a hand flat against my chest. It wasn't a shove, not yet. It was a promise. A promise of the end. Look down, Robert, she whispered, her face inches from mine, the smell of her perfume suffocating me. The water is very deep here and very dark, she added the final, chilling detail. And the sharks here are notoriously hungry. Her hand pressed harder. I felt my balance shift. The world tilted violently. My last sight was my son's face, passive, smiling, as Lisa leaned in close, her lips brushing my ear. Say hi to the sharks, she whispered. And then she pushed. The shock of the cold water was paralyzing. I plunged deep. The darkness swallowed me whole. Bubbles rushed past my face. I fought the urge to inhale the salt water. My lungs burned. My mind screamed. Michael, my son. The image of his smile seared into my memory. A brand of betrayal. How could he do this? How could he watch me die? Instinct took over. Survival kicked in. I kicked desperately, fighting the current determined to drag me down. I broke the surface with a violent gasp. The salt burned my throat and eyes. I looked up. The Helen's Grace was already moving. Lights blazing, the powerful thrum of the engines pulling away, and I heard it. Carried on the wind, the faint echo of Lisa's sharp laughter, the pop of a champagne cork. They were celebrating my death. Already? Help! I screamed. The sound was pathetic, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the ocean. Michael! They didn't look back. My son didn't look back. I was 70 years old, alone, in the middle of the Atlantic. My death sentence, and I was completely alone, in the cold, dark abyss. I started to tread water, trying to calm my racing heart, the physical exertion already taking its toll. My limbs felt heavy, my dinner jacket dragged me down. I struggled out of it, let it sink into the darkness. But it wasn't the cold or the exhaustion killing me. It was the weight of the betrayal, heavier than the ocean. It was pulling me under, crushing my soul. How could I have been so blind? I thought I was building a legacy for him, but I had only nurtured his greed. His entitlement had spoiled him, trying to compensate for the loss of his mother. But in doing so, I had created a monster, a weak, cowardly monster, who let his wife do the dirty work. I hadn't raised a son. I had raised a vulture, and now he was picking at my bones. Memories flooded me, each one a fresh stab wound. Helen holding baby Michael, her eyes shining with so much love. He has your determination, Robert, she had told me. I thought that determination would lead him to greatness. I never imagined it would lead him to murder. My determination, his greed, are they the same thing? The waves were getting rougher, crashing over my head. I sputtered, swallowing water, my strength fading fast, the cold seeping deep into my bones. A numbness spread through my limbs, hypothermia setting in. The thought of sharks crossed my mind. Lisa's words echoed in the darkness. Notoriously hungry. I scanned the water around me, paralyzed with fear. Every shadow, every ripple was a predator. But the real predators were sailing away, sipping champagne. Is this how it ends? Betrayed. Murdered by my own flesh and blood. For money I would have gladly given them anyway. It was pointless. Senseless. Cruel. I was sinking. The darkness below seemed inviting now. A release from the agonizing pain in my heart. The burning in my lungs. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, Helen. I failed him. I failed us. I let the water take me. I surrendered to the darkness. But then I heard something. A different sound, cutting through the roar of the waves. The smaller engine, the sputtering motor. I forced my eyes open, blinking away the salt water. A shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness. A small, inflatable dinghy approaching, bouncing roughly on the waves. It couldn't be. Hope was a dangerous thing out here. But it was all I had. Mr. Sterling, grab the rope, a voice called out, rough and urgent. A voice I recognized. Captain Jack, the man who captained my yacht for 15 years. Quiet, gruff, but fiercely loyal. I had helped him years ago. His daughter Sarah was sick. I paid for the treatments that saved her life. I never asked for anything in return. It seemed loyalty still existed in the world. I reached out with the last ounce of my strength. My fingers numb and useless, I grasped the thick, coarse rope. Jack hauled me in, pulled me over the side of the dinghy, like a sack of wet cement. I collapsed onto the rubber bottom, shivering uncontrollably, gasping for air, the relief so intense it hurt. I was alive. By some miracle, I was alive. I thought you were with them, I managed to choke out, my voice ragged. Jack didn't look at me, busy maneuvering the small boat, fighting the current, heading away from the yacht. They paid the crew well, he spat. Keep our mouths shut. Stay below deck. Private family matter. He paused, his face grim in the moonlight. But murder wasn't part of my deal, Mr. Sterling. Not for any price, he explained quickly. He had been suspicious of Lisa from the start. Her questions about the yacht's safety features, her insistence on knowing the exact coordinates of the deep trench. When Michael dismissed the crew and anchored so far from the shipping lanes, Jack knew something was wrong. He hadn't stayed below deck. He watched from the shadowed doorway of the galley. He saw the confrontation. He saw the push. He saw everything. As soon as the yacht started moving, he manually deployed the emergency dinghy. A safety feature I had insisted on installing years ago. It saved my life. They were too busy celebrating, Jack said, his voice tight with disgust. They didn't notice one missing dinghy. He looked at me then, his eyes filled with pity and anger. They were already talking about selling the yacht, said it had bad memories. Bad memories. My murder was an inconvenience to them. I sat up slowly, the reality sinking in. I was alive, but my life as I knew it was over. Robert Sterling, the tycoon, the loving father, was dead. Drowned in the Atlantic. A sudden wave of paranoia hit me. Could I trust him? Jack could still turn me over to them. They could offer him millions. I looked at the old captain, his face weathered by the sun, etched with lines of genuine concern. I had no choice. I had to trust him. My life depended on it. Where are we going? I asked. My voice trembled, not from the cold, but from the rage starting to build inside me. A cold fire replacing the numbness. A small supply island, Jack said, 12 miles east. Secluded. We can hide there. Figure out our next move. The journey was rough, the small dinghy tossed by the waves. The wind chilled me to the bone, but I didn't complain. Every shiver, every ache, a reminder that I was alive. And, as long as I was alive, I could fight back. They thought they had won. They were dead wrong. We reached the island just before dawn. A large rock, scrubby vegetation, a rundown shack. Jack helped me inside. A generator, canned food, a rusty cot. It was a far cry from my Miami penthouse. But it felt like a fortress. For the next 3 days, we waited. Recovered. Planned. Jack used a battery-powered radio to listen to the news. The story broke quickly. Billionaire Robert Sterling is missing, and presumed drowned. The announcer's voice crackled. A tragic accident aboard his yacht, the Helen's Grace. The lies began immediately. His son, Michael, and daughter-in-law, Lisa, reported Mr. Sterling, who had been drinking heavily, lost his balance and fell overboard. The Coast Guard called off the search. I listened to my own obituary. They weren't just murderers. They were assassins of my character, painting me as a clumsy drunk. The betrayal just kept twisting deeper. Jack needed supplies and a secure connection to the outside world. He knew a guy, Marco, a fixer at the marina, who specialized in discretion. For a price, Marco didn't ask questions, if the money was right. Jack met Marco on the mainland. He returned with a burner phone and internet access. I watched the press conference online. The connection was choppy, but the A's was clear enough. Michael, expensive black suit. Crocodile tears. Lisa, clinging to him. The picture of grieving widowhood. They played the part perfectly. It was agonizing. Seeing the genuine sorrow of my friends, while my murderers stood there basking in the sympathy, the spotlight. They were dancing on my grave, and the world was applauding. I wanted to scream, to expose them, to shatter their facade. But Jack held me back. "We need a plan, Mr. Sterling," he said, his voice firm. "We need proof. Right now, it's your word against theirs. And you're dead, remember?" He was right. I had to be smart. I had to be patient. I had to be ruthless. Just like them. "They're moving fast," Jack noted, monitoring the news feeds Marco provided. "They've contacted your lawyer, David, pushing for an expedited execution of the will. Need to stabilize the company." Stabilize the company. Stabilize the company. They meant drain the accounts. Before anyone could ask too many questions. David, my lawyer for 30 years. My confidant, the only friend I knew I could trust. David was meticulous, honest, and he despised Lisa. He saw through her from day one. "I need to talk to David," I said. My resolve hardened. "That's risky, sir," Jack warned. "If they find out you're alive, they will run. Or worse, they will try again. And this time, they won't fail." "David is the key," I insisted. "He knows everything about my estate." We arranged a meeting. Secret. Secure. Jack used Marco again to arrange a discreet transport back to the mainland. Marco smuggled us back on a rusting freighter. The risk was immense, but the reward was justice. Sneaking back into my own city felt wrong. I built half the buildings I passed. My name plastered on construction sites. etched into cornerstones. Yet I felt like a ghost, a phantom haunting my former life. The physical toll was heavy. My body ached. Fear was a constant companion, but the anger fueled me, a burning desire for justice. It outweighed the fear. I was ready for whatever came next. I was ready to take back what was mine. I met David in an old warehouse I owned down by the docks. A place Lisa and Michael didn't even know about. Dusty. Smelled of rust and the sea. When David saw me, he gasped, dropped his briefcase. His face paled. "Robert, my God, it's true. You're alive." He rushed forward, embraced me tightly. When Jack's contact called, I thought it was a cruel joke. A nightmare. "I am alive, David, and I need your help." I didn't just need his help. I needed his loyalty. I needed his expertise. I told him everything. The confrontation, the push, the chilling efficiency of their plan. The devastating image of Michael's smile. David listened. His face grew tighter with anger. His professional demeanor cracked. "I knew something was wrong," David said, pacing the dusty floor. He always paced when agitated. "They were too eager, too pushy, demanded immediate access to the funds. Threatened to sue me if I delayed. But David had held strong. He had protected my legacy, even when he thought I was gone. The will is safeguards, Robert, he explained. The trusts are locked down tight. They can't access the principal without a thorough review." "They won't be satisfied with that?" I said. "They want it all." Now, a dark realization hit me. We need to find out why they were so desperate. It wasn't just greed, David. It was something more. Something urgent. Greed, I understood. Murder? That required desperation. If this story has your heart racing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep uncovering stories that deserve to be heard, because the truth always finds a way to the surface. David started digging, his entire firm on the case, discreetly. He knew they needed specialized help. He brought in Sarah Jenkins, a forensic accountant known for her tenacity. I had hired her years ago to audit the company. She was the best. What they found was illuminating and sickening. It was worse than I could have imagined. Lisa wasn't just greedy. She was in deep trouble. Massive gambling debts. High-stakes poker games. Macau, Monte Carlo. Millions. "Robert," David said, spreading the financial records on a dusty workbench. Sarah Jenkins pointed to the discrepancies in the company accounts. "She owed money to some very dangerous people," Sarah added, her voice grim. She mentioned a name, Mr. Chen, a man known for his ruthlessness. He was demanding payment. Immediately, and Michael? Weak-willed, desperate to impress her. He had been systematically embezzling from the company for the past year, covering her losses. My company, my money, used to fund their degeneracy, their crimes. They were on the verge of being exposed, Sarah explained. I was closing in on the fraud. I was days away from uncovering everything. They didn't just want your fortune, Robert, David continued. They needed it immediately, to pay off the debts and avoid prison. He paused, letting the gravity sink in. Your death wasn't just greed. It was their escape plan. Their get-out-of-jail-free card. And they had played it perfectly. Almost. We had the motive. Now we needed the proof of the murder attempt. My testimony and Jack's wouldn't be enough. They would deny it, claim we were disgruntled employees. They would hire the best lawyers. We needed something undeniable, something concrete. Jack, I said, turning to the old captain. The yacht, the security system. I held my breath. This was our only hope. Jack shook his head, his expression grim. The main deck cameras were malfunctioning that night. I checked the logs, accessed the system remotely. He confirmed my fears. The system was manually disabled by Mrs. Sterling. Hours before the incident, they had covered their tracks. Thoroughly. Meticulously. The realization was a major setback. I felt a wave of despair crashing over me. Without proof, I was powerless. They would get away with murder. They would inherit everything I built. We were back to square one, searching for a weakness in their seemingly perfect plan. But even the perfect plan has a flaw, and I was about to find it. Wait, Jack said suddenly. His eyes lit up. A memory surfaced. The backup system. My heart leaped. Years ago, concerned about piracy, I had insisted on installing a secondary security system, hidden in the navigation lights, independent of the main system, recording everything in high definition, stored on a secure off-site server. Precaution I never thought I would need against my own family. "Did you check it?" I asked, my voice tense with anticipation. "I didn't have the access codes," Jack said. "It's biometric. Only you and David have access." David accessed the server immediately. Fingerprint scanner connected to his laptop. We waited. The silence in the warehouse thick with tension. The only sound the scurrying of rats in the walls. The loading bar crawled across the screen, agonizingly slow. And then there it was. High-definition video. Clear as day. The conversation. The positioning. The coldness in Michael's eyes. The push. Lisa's sneer. The audio was crystal clear. "Say hi to the sharks." And Michael's smile. The undeniable proof of their betrayal. Watching the footage was like being thrown into the icy water again. The cold calculation, the casual cruelty, played out in stark clarity, any lingering hope that Michael had been coerced, that he regretted his actions. Vanished. The betrayal was complete. Absolute. The pain was overwhelming, but it solidified my resolve. They had to be stopped. They were not just murderers. They were monsters. And I had created one of them. I had to be the one to stop them. We had everything. Motive. Means proof. But we had to move fast. The final hearing to declare me legally dead and release the funds was the next day. David had stalled, but the pressure was immense. We had less than 24 hours. David was worried. Jurisdiction issues. International waters. They might flee the country before the arrest warrants were issued. Mr. Chen was waiting for his money. They wouldn't stay in Miami long. We had to coordinate perfectly. One mistake, and they could slip away. We won't wait for the court, I decided. The plan formed in my mind. We will confront them at home, where they feel safe, where they think they have won. David contacted Detective Miller, a sharp investigator he trusted implicitly. Miller had a reputation for being incorruptible. We briefed him, showed him the evidence, the financial records, the video. He agreed to the plan. The warrants were prepared. The trap was set. "We will make them confess," I said. And I meant every word. The next evening, Michael and Lisa were celebrating. They had just come from the final meeting with the bank lawyers. The court had declared me legally dead. The $3 billion was theirs. They were untouchable, or so they thought. They arrived at my mansion, their mansion now, laughing, champagne bottle in hand. The house was brightly lit, a party in progress. Music and laughter echoed from the living room. They were celebrating my death, with my money, in my house. The audacity was staggering. David and Jack had arranged our entry, but we needed inside help. I contacted Maria, my loyal head housekeeper for 20 years. Maria disabled the security system. She greeted me with tears in her eyes. Her hands trembled as she made the sign of the cross. "Welcome home, Mr. Sterling," she whispered. "They are evil, pure evil." The staff, loyal to me, had been briefed. They were waiting anxiously. The stage was set. I walked through the familiar halls, the scent of Helen's favorite roses still lingering in the air. It felt strange, like walking through a museum of my own life. A life they had stolen, a life I was about to reclaim. I went to the study, my favorite room, walls lined with books, the smell of old leather and pipe tobacco. Comforting. I sat in my favorite armchair, the one Helen bought for me, facing the fireplace. I waited. The silence was deafening. Every tick the grandfather clock echoed in the quiet room. The music stopped abruptly. David had informed the guests that Michael and Lisa had arrived, wanted a private moment to reflect on their loss. The irony was almost too much to bear. I heard them approaching, their footsteps light, arrogant, confident. "We did it, baby," Michael cheered, his voice echoing in the hallway. "It's all ours. The old man is finally gone." "Of course we did," Lisa purred. It was easy. He never saw it coming. Now, let's toast to our new life. Chin can finally stop calling. They burst into the study, still laughing. That was my cue. I slowly swiveled my chair around. Hello, Michael. The silence was absolute. The blood drained from their faces. Lisa's eyes widened in disbelief. Her mouth hung open in a silent scream. Michael looked sick. He stumbled back, clutching his chest. His face contorted in sheer terror. The ghost had returned, and he was very real. Robert?
Lisa whispered. Her voice trembled for the first time. Hello, Lisa, I said.
My voice calm, conversational. You look surprised. Did you forget to invite me to the party? Dad? Michael stammered, taking another step back. How are you here? We saw you drown. The sharks. His voice trailed off, choked with fear and confusion. Ah, yes, the sharks, I said, leaning forward. They send their regards. It seems they weren't interested in an old tough piece of meat like me. The fear in their eyes was intoxicating. But it wasn't enough. I wanted them to feel the same terror I felt in the water. Lisa recovered quickly. Her eyes narrowed, calculating, searching for an escape. She still thought she could win. It doesn't matter how you survived, she spat, her voice regaining its sharp edge. You're legally dead. The court declared it this morning. The money is ours. The will is finalized. She took a step toward me. You have no power here. This is our house now. Get out before I call security. She underestimated me. Again. Are you sure about that? I asked. I reached down beside the chair, picked up a large, leather-bound portfolio. I came bearing a gift, I said. A special gift, just for you. I opened the portfolio, spread the contents on the coffee table. Bank statements, highlighting the embezzlement. Records of Lisa's gambling debts. Names amounts. Mr. Chen's name glaringly present. The evidence meticulously compiled by Sarah Jenkins. And a tablet. Paused on a high-definition image from the Helen's Grace's backup camera. The image showed Lisa's hand pressed against my chest. Her face twisted in a cruel sneer, and Michael standing beside her, smiling. Their world crumbled. The illusion of their victory shattered into a million pieces. What is this? Michael whispered, his voice shaking, staring at the image of his own betrayal. This, I said, my voice cold and hard, is justice. At that moment, we heard the sirens. Faint, at first, then louder, flashing blue and red lights illuminated the study. David and Jack entered the room from the hallway, followed by Detective Miller and another officer. The game was over. They had lost. Lisa, ever the survivor, bolted for the back door. But Jack was waiting, blocking her path, his face impassive as stone. She turned, cornered. A trapped animal. You can't do this to me, she shrieked at me. Rage, desperation. That money is mine. I earned it. I put up with you for years. Detective Miller burst in, gun drawn. They handcuffed Lisa. She screamed curses at me, fought them every step of the way until they dragged her out. Her screams echoed long after she was gone, a symphony of defeat. Michael hadn't moved, frozen, staring at the image on the tablet. Slowly he looked up at me, tears streaming down his face, the mask of the ruthless tycoon gone, replaced by the terrified face of the boy I once knew. Weak, broken. Dad, I'm sorry, he choked out. She poisoned me against you, told me you were going to cut me out of the will. I was weak. I didn't want to lose her. He fell to his knees, sobbing, Please, Dad, don't let them take me. I'm your son. The words pierced my heart, but the wound was already too deep, too infected. I looked at my son, the boy I loved more than life itself, the man who watched as his wife murdered me, for money. I searched for the child Helen, and I raised. But the corruption ran too deep. The greed had hollowed him out, leaving nothing but emptiness. I thought of Helen, glad she wasn't here to witness this devastation. You died the moment you smiled. Michael, I said, my voice heavy with a profound, unending sadness. The son I knew would never have done that. I didn't interfere as the police handcuffed him, led him away. He looked back one last time, his eyes begging for a forgiveness I couldn't give. The silence that followed was deafening. I was alone in the study, surrounded by the ghosts of my past and the wreckage of my future. The victory felt hollow, but it was a victory nonetheless. The trial was a media circus. The story too sensational. The billionaire back from the dead, the murderous son, the greedy daughter-in-law, Jack's testimony, the video evidence, damning. David and Sarah Jenkins' documentation of their financial crimes sealed their fate. Detective Miller ensured the chain evidence was unbreakable. The truth was exposed for the world to see. Michael and Lisa turned on each other during the trial, blaming the other, revealing the ugly truth of their toxic relationship. Their greed turned inward, subsuming them both. Guilty. Attempted murder. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Sentenced to life in prison. Justice was served. Cold and final. I returned to the mansion. It felt empty now, haunted by the echoes of betrayal. The walls I built to protect my family had become a prison of greed. The fortune I amassed felt tainted, cursed. I couldn't live there anymore. I couldn't live the life I had before. Robert Sterling, the tycoon, was truly dead. A few months later, I made an announcement that shocked the business world. I liquidated my entire fortune, the $3 billion, all of it. I created the Helen Sterling Foundation. I donated the money to marine conservation programs, in honor of the ocean that spared my life, shelters for victims of domestic abuse and financial manipulation, and a massive scholarship fund for underprivileged children, giving them the chance to build their own futures, based on hard work and integrity, not entitlement. I wanted to build a legacy that truly mattered, a legacy that honored Helen. I kept only enough to live a simple, quiet life. I bought a small cottage by the sea, far away from the city I built. Jack retired with me, his loyalty rewarded with a comfortable pension. His daughter would always be cared for. Maria came too, managing the small household. We found a new kind of family, built on loyalty, respect, and second chances. I often sit on the porch, watching the waves crash against the shore. The salty air calms me again. I lost my son. I lost my fortune, but I found something more valuable. I found my freedom. I found a legacy built not on steel and concrete, but on compassion and justice. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Michael. I wonder if he ever truly understood what he threw away. Not the money, but the love, the family, the life we could have had. I look at the ocean, the vast, endless expanse of blue, and I finally feel at peace. I am no longer Robert Sterling the billionaire. I am just Robert, and that is enough. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comment if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe.